Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Srinvatan Svakata Krita Punya Kirtana Hridantosya Bhadrani Vidunoti Sahasratam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27, verses 12 and 13. Verse 12. Yukte sva evam pramatasya kutumba shakta chetasa asasadha savaikalo yo priya priya yoshitam. Synonyms: Yukteshu, to beneficial activities, evam, thus, pramatasya, being inattentive, kutumba, to kith and kin, ashakta, attached, chetasa, consciousness, asasada, arrived, sa, that, vai, certainly, kala, time, ya, which, apriya, not very pleasing, priya yojitam, for persons attached to women. Translation by Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, His Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thus, Puranjan, being attached to fruitive activities, karma kandya, as well as kith and kin, and being obsessed with polluted consciousness, eventually arrived at a point not very much liked by those who are overly attached to material things. Purport. In this verse, the verse Priya Yojitam and Apriya are very significant. The word Yoshit means woman, and Priya means dear or pleasing. That is not very much welcome for those who are too much attached to material enjoyment, which culminates in sex. There is an instructive story in this connection. But when a saintly person was passing on his way, he met a prince, the son of a king, and he blessed him, saying, "My dear prince, may you live forever." The sage next met a saintly person and said to him, "You may either live or die." Eventually, the sage met a brahmachari devotee and he blessed him, saying, "My dear devotee, you may die immediately." Finally, the sage met a hunter and he blessed him, saying, "Neither live nor die." The point is that those who are very sensual and are engaged in sense gratification do not wish to die. Generally, a prince has enough money to enjoy his senses. Therefore, the great sage said he should live forever. For as long as he lived, he could enjoy life. But after his death, he would go to hell. Since the brahmachari devotee was leading a life of severe austerities and penances in order to be promoted back to Godhead, the sage said,
You're on the phone, I think your voice is cutting a little bit here and there.
"Oh, really? Okay. Let's see. I'm actually, let me got my AirPods into. Okay. Is this better?
Yes, Mataji, for sure.
Okay. So where was I? Since the brahmachari devotee was leading a life of severe austerities and penances in order to be promoted back to Godhead, the sage said that he should die immediately so that he need not continue to labor hard and could instead go back home, back to Godhead. A saintly person may either live or die, for during his life he is engaged in serving the Lord, and after his death he also serves the Lord. Thus, his life and the next are the same for a saintly devotee, for in both he serves the Lord. Since the hunter lives a very ghastly life due to killing animals, and since he will go to hell, when he dies, he is advised to neither live nor die. King Puranjan finally arrived at the point of old age. In old age, the senses lose their strength. And although an old man desires to enjoy his senses and especially sex life, he is very miserable because his instruments of enjoyment no longer function. Such sensualists are never prepared for death. They simply want to live on and extend their life by so called scientific advancement. Some foolish Russian scientists also claim that they are going to make man immortal through scientific advancement. Under the leadership of such crazy fellows, civilization is going on. Cruel death, however, comes and takes all of them despite their desire to live forever. This type of mentality was exhibited by Hiranyakashipu, but when the time was ripe, the Lord personally killed him within a second. Text 13. Chandavega iti khyato Gandharvadhipatirnirpa Gandharvastasya balina sati satsi uttara satatrayam. Synonym: Chandavega. Chandavega iti, thus Khyata, celebrated, Gandharva, belonging to the Gandharva Loka, Adipati, king, Ripa, O king, Gandharva, other Gandharvas, Tasya, his, Balina, very powerful soldiers, Sashti, 60, Uttara, surpassing, Sata, 100, Trayam, 3. Translation: O king, in Gandharva Loka there is a king named Chandavega. Under him there are 360 very powerful Gandharva soldiers. Purport: time is figuratively described here as Chandavega. Since time and tide wait for no man, time in herein called Chandavega, which means very swiftly passing away. As time passes, it is calculated in terms of years. 1 year contains 360 days, and the soldiers of Chandavega here mentioned represent these days. Time passes swiftly. Chandavega's powerful soldiers of Gandharva will swiftly carry away all the days of our life. As the sun rises and sets, it snatches away the balance of our lifespan. Thus, as each day passes, each one of us loses some of life's duration. It is therefore said that the duration of one's life cannot be saved. But if one is engaged in devotional service, his time cannot be taken away by the sun. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.17, Ayurharati Vaipumsam Udyan Astam Chan Yan Aso. The conclusion is that if one wants to make himself immortal, he should give up sense gratification. By engaging oneself in devotional service, one can gradually enter into the eternal kingdom of God. Mirages and other illusionary things are sometimes called Gandharvas. Our losing our lifespan is taken as advancement of age. This imperceptible passing away of the days of life is figuratively referred to this verse as Gandharvas. As explained in later verses, such Gandharvas are both male and female. This indicates that both men and women lose their span imperceptibly by the force of time, which is herein described as Chandavega. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sopadantikam. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing to see the allegory that is being described by Narada Muni to King Prachina Barishat. The first allegory described about how the body, he described about how the body with the 5 senses, and also it is like the city of 9 gates, and described about the wife who was the material intelligence, and all of the description was given about how a soul attaches himself to all this material
worldly life and thinks that he is that, right? And we saw all of that allegory about how Narada Muni was trying to explain to King Prachina Barishat about how through the story of Puranjan about how all of this happens. And then in these verses, now he's directly telling him that this Puranjan that I've been talking about is none other than you. This is really your story that we are talking about. And then this is a second allegory right now we are seeing is about Chandavega. So, this allegory really, this is how he's telling the story, right? That there was a king named Chandavega. He's from Gandharva Loka. And he was no ordinary king, right? He was the personification of time. So, who is this Chandavega? He is actually representing time. And under his command, there are 360 Gandharva soldiers, and they are very swift. Chanda Vega, right? Vega. It is like very swift and relentless. And every day, one of these soldiers march forward and steal something very precious from our life. That is a day of our life. So these 360 soldiers are representing the 360 days. And it is also explained that there are 360 like soldiers are like black and white soldiers, which are really representing for the day and the night. So we don't notice their attack, but because they come very quietly, but they are never failing, they are relentless, they go on and on. So each sunrise and sunset is a soldier of Chandavega carrying away our lifespan. So just think about that, right? Somewhere also I heard about time is like this investment in our bank account where every day there is deposit is being made, like we are withdrawing money from our bank account every day without fail. Every day the bank we are taking money out. However, we don't even know how much is left in our bank account. Can just think about that. I mean, that is the reality of our life, that we are withdrawing every day from our bank account and we're not even knowing how much time is left in our bank account. So that's the reality of life. And the Bhagavatam is teaching us that everything in this world, our body, our wealth, our achievements, is slowly being stolen away by the army of time. Chanakya Pandit said that even one moment of time cannot be returned. Even if one is prepared to pay millions of dollars, one cannot calculate the amount of loss there is in wasting valuable time, whether materially or sorry, or spiritually. One should be very alert in utilizing the time which he has at his disposal. A conditioned soul lives in a particular body for a fixed measurement of time. And it is recommended in the scriptures that within that small measurement of time, one has to finish Krishna consciousness and thus gain release from the influence of time factor. But unfortunately, those who are not in Krishna consciousness are carried away by the strong power of time, and without their knowledge, as clouds are carried away by the wind. So Krishna also revealed this truth to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. When Arjuna trembled before the universal form, when he saw that form of Krishna, Krishna declared, Kalosmi, I am time, the destroyer of the worlds. So at that time, it was a very serious revelation, chilling revelation to Arjuna. He understood that time itself is none other than the Lord. See, for the materialist, this is very terrifying. Nothing can escape his advance. But for the devotee, it is liberating, because when time is Krishna, we can offer our moments back to him in devotion and they are never lost. So the main function of the time factor, which is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is to destroy everything. The materialists in material consciousness are engaged in producing so many things for economic development. They think that with all of this, right, there will be more and more satisfaction and more all of that. But nobody really understands that everything is going to be destroyed in due course of time. And then from history also we saw, right, how many things were established, how many things were destroyed. And then still the foolish materialists cannot understand that they are simply wasting time in producing material necessities. And even for us, right, practically think about that. how much of our time I'm just speaking for myself too, right? Like, where are my priorities? Where am I putting my time? Every day I may have X number of things that needs to be taken care of, or tasks and this and that. And before I know, the day is done and it is time to go to bed. And where did the time go? No idea. Everything was just went off. So it's just very practical for us to relate, right? How the time can just slip away from our hands very quickly. And also not knowing this fact, right? We take the small flash of life to be everything. And so much of our time is being wasted in improving the economic conditions because of that. So this lesson was also realized by King Yayati. So King Yayati's story will come in Canto 9. So he married Devayani, and when he had illicit relationship with Devayani's friend, who was the maid servant Sarmishta, Devayani's father, when he learned about this thing, Shukracharya, that is Devayani's father, he cursed King Yayati with old age. So at that moment itself, he switched from being this young person to old person. King Yayati was very upset. He begged, and then he said, "Can you please take this away?" So then Shukracharya says that, okay, I can give you one choice, that you may be able to exchange your old age with one of your children, like take one of your son's youth, and you will be able to exchange that. So then King Yayati, because he hadn't finished enjoying pleasures of this material world, he approaches his sons and he says, "Can one of you take my old age and in exchange give me your youth?" So none of the sons agree to that, but only one son, Puru, he agrees. And then he exchanges that. So, and then he goes on enjoying pleasures for thousands of years. And after that, there is a realization that he gets. And he says in the end that desire is never satisfied by indulgence, just as fire is never extinguished by pouring ghee upon it. So think about that. When the fire is burning, if you put ghee on it, it's going to have more flame. It's going to burn more and more. Similar to like that, we think maybe this pleasure, that pleasure, maybe this will be done, that will be done. Guess what? It is going to just further, the flame is going to increase. And Srila Prabhupada writes in his book, in the laws of material nature, the laws, he says the misguided materialist does not know that this very body is impermanent, and the attractions of home, land, wealth, which are in relationship to that body, are also temporary. Out of ignorance only, he thinks that everything is permanent. So even with time reversed, Yayati could not conquer death. He discovered that the only true victory over time is detachment and surrender to Krishna. So then he left the palace, crowned Puru, his son, the king. He was able to exchange it back. So now his son Puru was again young, and then he was left to rule the kingdom. And then King Yayati went to the forest to perform devotional service. So very clearly we can understand how King Yayati had this realization. And then there is the wisdom of Yudhishthir Maharaj, right? When asked by the Yaksha, what is the most astonishing thing in this world? He replied, every day countless beings die, yet those who remain believe they live forever. So this is our greatest illusion. We watch Chandavega's soldiers, which is time, take away from others, but we live as if we own our time and we are never going to die. So that's the big lesson we learn from this allegory. So what is the conclusion, right, from all of these pastimes that we are hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam? Chandavega's army reminds us that time steals everything. And Krishna is showing us that time is his own power, which is irresistible and undeniable. And from Yayati's story, which teaches us that pleasures cannot outsmart time. And King Yudhishthir Maharaj also reveals that the folly of ignoring death's certainty, right? And all of this Bhagavatam is giving us a solution that only devotion to the Lord transforms time from a thief into our greatest friend. So each moment that we serve in devotional service, Krishna's service, that time is not lost but carried with us eternally. And then the final reflection is that every day one soldier of Chandavega has already marched past us. Now then the question for us is like, did we allow him to steal a day into oblivion, into nothingness, or did we turn that day into eternal wealth by offering it to Krishna? So time will devour all things, but when time is given to Krishna, it is becoming timeless. So really beautiful reflection from this verse, and everything that we are learning, like really, like it is like eye-opening and shaking us all with this allegory that Narada Muni is explaining to King Prachina Barishad. But of course, it is a lesson for all of us too. With that, I would like to end. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa